Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's presentation is going to be recorded, and we will be releasing this out on our YouTube channel for Tampa Drones. You can go to our website, tampadrones.com, later in, today, and there'll be a link there. You can go over and recap today's discussion. So welcome to Flying in Florida. My name is Josh Nibby. I am the proud owner of Tampa Drones. We have been around since 2018. I myself have been in the hobby since about 2012, 2013 is when I started my first build. So I've been in it for a while, especially here in Florida. So I'm going to give you some key pointers and some notes and things for you to use so you can make sure you're flying safely and keeping our hobby in the good ice. Yeah. Okay, so some things we're going to go over, like what do you need to register your drone? What do you do after registering your drone? Places you can fly in Florida and where you can't fly in Florida. And we'll also go over some tips on how to maintain your drone. Okay. So how do you register your drone? First of all, do you need to register your drone? The quick answer to that is yes. Okay. Depending on how you register your drone and what you do with the FAA number that you get afterwards is going to be dependent on how you plan on flying your drone. So if you're using your drone for recreational purposes, like you're flying your drone for your wedding to post on Facebook to share with friends and family, or you're buying a drone and you're just out, playing around with it, flying around out and taking pictures for your own personal amusement. Okay, if that falls in line for you, then if your drone is less than ½ a pound, you do not need to register your drone. Okay, regulations state that if the drone is less than 0.55 pounds or less than 250 grams, you do not need to register. So those of you that have the Mavic Minis, okay, the Mavic Mini 2, those are under the 249 grams, so you don't have to register those, right? However, if you say have one of these Mavic Minis, all right, but less than 250 grams, and you are flying it for commercial purposes, you're collecting some kind of paycheck, or you're getting some kind of economic benefit out of the footage that you're using, then you have to be Part 107 certified. This includes real estate agents who want to take pictures of the homes and post them up, use the footage and the photos on their MLS listings. This includes anybody who's taking pictures or video or using drone footage for a monetized YouTube channel. Keyword there is monetized, okay? Things of that nature, right? If you plan on making money or using the drone for anything more than recreational, then you need to register the drone under a Part 107 when we go through this. Okay? Registrations cannot be transferred between Part 107 and recreational. What that means is think about it like you have a company vehicle. Okay, your company doesn't want you to use that vehicle for personal use. I'm sure there may be some out there that do, but for the purposes of the conversation, let's assume they don't want you to use it for personal use, for insurance liability reasons, let's say. And the inverse would also be true, where you shouldn't, you wouldn't want to use your everyday normal fun car for work, right? It's like changing the license plate back and forth, right? The drones that you use for fun, they have to be used and only used for fun. If the drones that you have for work and for Part 107 commercial, then they have to be used for Part 107 commercial only. You can't just go and use your brand new Mavic 3 Senna and just, you can play around with it. You call it a training session. Don't call it like, flying for fun. If you want to fly under, fly for fun, but, but professionally. Okay. So how do you do it? So information needed to register, you need things like your email address, physical address, make and model of your drone if you're flying under Part 107, and obviously a credit or debit card. Registration fees are minimal. Okay, they're $5 per drone. If you're under Part 107, it's $5 for your whole fleet if you're flying under as recreational. So what that means is if you have 5 drones that you fly for fun, you pay $5 and you put the sticker on all 5 drones. Okay, so you only have to pay $5. As at Part 107 registration, if you have 5 drones in your fleet, you're paying $5 for each drone in your fleet. So if you have 5 drones, your total bill will be $25. Okay. The registrations are good for 3 years. You want to make sure you're 13 years or older and a legal citizen or legal permanent resident. After you register, you're going to have a FAA registration certificate sent to your email. You'll also have the FAA number that you'll want to print out and keep with you. If another individual is flying your drone, you want to make sure that they have first your authorization, and 2, that they have a copy or a digital copy of the registration certificate as they're flying. Okay, so it's okay for them to fly your drone, but you just want to make sure that they have the papers, your papers, to go with the drone if in case there's any kind of mishap. And it's really about mishaps. Nobody's going to come and just there's no FAA police that's just going to come in and demand identification for no reason. It's typically if there's already some kind of incident that may have already occurred. All right. There are legal penalties, including $27,500 in civil penalties, or up to $250,000 and imprisonment for up to 3 years. Right. That sounds really scary, but let me tell you, the first company was recently fined for the first time, the only time that I know of for sure. And they had 19 warnings that was issued to them for doing things wrong, like flying at dark without permission, letting pilots fly that aren't licensed to fly, that sort of thing. 19 times before they actually issued the first penalty. So don't think there's a huge oversight on this, because it's really just in case there's an incident. All right, so the FAA requires you to mark all your drones with a registration number before you fly them. Make sure you put your labels on the outside shell or outer part of the drone. Make sure it's legible, and make sure it's not inside any kind of battery bay or underneath the battery. Think of it like when somebody who knows absolutely nothing about drones, they need to be able to pick up your drone and turn around and find this FAA number without having to pull a battery pack or anything like that. Okay, so fun stuff. Where can we fly? So you can fly in any city park in the state of Florida, right? City parks, not county or state parks, right? You can also fly in AMA fields, which typically requires additional memberships, and private property with the owner's permission. All right, so county and state parks, this is one that really kind of confuses a lot of people. What's the difference between a city and a county and a state park? And it's basically just jurisdiction and how those parks receive their funding. Okay, so not flying, not being able to fly drones in state and county parks, it's not new. Okay, this has been around for a really long time, way before drones were even a conception. Okay, and it's really because county and state parks, they kind of act more of like a preserve. Okay, and they don't want drones crashing into the trees and people climbing up into the trees and damaging the landscape because they're trying to get their $3,000 drone out of the tree. Okay, so county and state parks, they're kind of easy to recognize. As you're pulling into the park, look on the sign, and typically it'll say City of St. Petersburg or City of, I don't know, Tampa, or City of Brandon, or City of whatever. Okay, that is an indication that that's a city park. If you go to a park and it says anything else, like Hillsborough County Park or Pinellas County, or anything other than city of, then it's probably a county park. County parks are really kind of hard, a lot harder to identify, but you can identify them. And then state parks, obviously they'll have, big sign in the front. Typically there'll be a person in a booth. You have to pay to get in, that sort of stuff. So, but you can take off from outside those parks and fly over them. You just can't take off and land from within those parks, within that line. Okay. So if there is a park that you want to fly and see, take off from outside the park boundaries and fly over the park, and you can get around the rule that way. So where can't you fly? I say here 5 miles within an airport, a helipad. Technically it's 1 mile, but I want to have extra space between myself and an airport so we don't get in trouble. So 5 miles, you won't get any kind of any kind of warnings or anything on if you're flying a DJI drone. County and state parks, we just went over that, can't fly there. Can't fly near any federal building or power plant. You can't fly near a stadium with an active event taking place. Keyword there being active, okay? Don't fly over any crowded area, and really just be smart. One of the caveats to this, don't fly over any crowded area. Technically, can you fly at Clearwater Beach? Yeah, you can. There's no issues flying at Clearwater Beach. However, if you go to Clearwater Beach now, you'll see a sign that blatantly says no drones allowed. And it's because Clearwater Beach is always such a crowded area, like even at dusk, So so when you see signs like that, they don't want you flying there, just go fly somewhere else. All right. Some drone maintenance. We got a question. Are national parks included in the county and state restrictions? Absolutely. Yep. National parks, they don't want drones. Now you can call the the park rangers, and you can try and maybe get authorization in a national park. I know state parks, once in a while you can get authorizations. So if you can get an authorization in a national park, then go for it. All right. But by default, yes, those are no-fly zones. All right. So drone maintenance. Don't store your batteries or full or an empty charge. Don't fly with bent, chipped, or cracked propellers. Have your drone inspected by an expert after a crash, and spin your motors by hand. They should move smoothly. Okay. Batteries being stored at empty or full charge, that's a physics thing. It's because of the chemicals inside the battery cell when they're fully charged. Those electrons are jazzing really hard, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're just waiting to be, waiting for that energy to be released. And if they sit like that for too long, it starts breaking away the lining inside the battery cell, and that's what causes the batteries to puff up. Empty batteries. So even when you're not really using a battery, the voltage in a battery could fluctuate. Really, I think it's kind of based on like temperature and other different factors. But having a battery that's left empty for too long will make it a lot more difficult to recharge the battery, because the cells that haven't been charged in a long time start becoming stale, and the chemistry just breaks down. So if you're storing your batteries, and when I say store, I mean using them, if you don't plan to use them longer than 2 months, put them into storage charge, which basically means just put them at a 50% charge. At a 50% charge, the batteries, they can have a shelf life of a few years at 50%. So do that. Don't fly with bent, chipped, cracked propellers. That should be obvious. These things are spinning so fast with so much momentum behind them. A small crack, even a hairline that you're not going to think about, can become a really big crack very quickly. Have your drone inspected by an expert. I am an expert. I do have a shop here in Temple Terrace. If you don't use me, use somebody else that is an expert, that's going to be able to ensure that your drone is going to fly safely again. And because we live in Florida and we have so much sand, when we take off, that sand, we have a lot of kind of blowback from the ground effect. So a lot of times that sand can get washed up and get into your motors. So you want to make sure when you spin your motors by hand, you don't feel any kind of grinding or crunching or anything. It should just be perfectly smooth, right? AMA memberships, are they worth it? Yes, all right. So for basically $75 a year, right, you become a member of one of the largest and longest running model aeronautic clubs in the world, right? They're based out of Muncie, Indiana. They are a nonprofit. They are the ones who fight the big money against those who try and impose unlawful sanctions against our hobby. If you recall back a few years ago when we didn't have to register our drones for a little while, and then we did again, it was the AMA who was fighting those regulations on Capitol Hill to ensure that people who just want to fly their drones for fun aren't being imposed on, you know. Memberships do carry, I think this is actually increased to a $2 million liability policy in case of a major accident. $75 a year, it's free for ages under 18, and I think it's $65 for seniors if you want to be one. Tampa Drones is an authorized seller of AMA memberships. We do get a small kickback from selling these memberships, so we really appreciate using us if this is what you're looking for. So we offer some drone workshops if you're looking to become a better pilot. We offer a build a drone class and go through building a small indoor brushless swoop type drone. We do drone pilot 101, which is what we're doing here now. I also offer one-on-one training and part 107 test prep for any kind of drone training needs. So I will open this up for questions. Is there any questions?
I think there's a question in chat.
Yes, Stephen.
Just that there was a question in chat earlier about national parks.
Yes, I believe I covered that.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Thanks, it was very informative.
Thank you.
I have another question, but I don't know if it's appropriate for this particular class. I'm having trouble keeping my log.
What is it?
Keeping my log for flights. Like when I clear out the cache on my phone or my smart controller to make sure it's running as smoothly as possible and there's enough space on it, it seems to always delete my log, so it looks like I've never flown.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Give me a call on our line.
Okay.
I'll help you troubleshoot that.
Okay.
Hi, I do have a question. We have a DJI Mavic Air 2, and it's new, and we've never actually been able to get it to work correctly. Apparently, the drone is now binded to a different controller or a different account, and we've been on the phone with DJI for hours trying to get this resolved. Does anybody know how to do a factory reset for the Mavic Air 2?
Yeah, I can do that. If you want to bring it in, it'll be $40.
Okay, we live in the Jacksonville area.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Same thing. Give me a call after this, and I'll give you our address, and we can accept shipments if you'd like.
Okay, could you put the phone number in the chat?
Yep, I will.
So you're
hi,
saying,
I'm Len.
hello?
I am a, am I talking over somebody? Okay. My name is Len. I am a novice. I just got a Mini 2 that I've flown a few times. So please forgive my ignorance. I understand that I can't fly over 400 feet, but I also understand that you're not supposed to fly it out of sight, which with that little drone is almost impossible because you lose sight of it like immediately. And I have flown it even a mile away. So I would like to discuss that particular regulation and how practical that is.
Sure. Is the regulation there? Yes. Is it practical? No. I mean, yeah, I mean, technically you're not supposed to be flying it out of line of sight, but really depending on the pilot, line of sight could mean different things, right? You know, one person can fly the same drone, but in a different color, and they can see it further. You know what I mean? So what the regulation is trying to get at there is flying, you know, it's one thing to fly far away from you, but it's another thing to be flying in an area that, you know, if you're flying, you know, a mile away and you're in the city, you know, flying in the city, that's obviously going to be a bad idea. You know, flying beyond your line of sight, it's, as a hobbyist, it doesn't really mean a whole lot to us because we do it all the time. You know, the FPV guys, I fly FPV, I fly with my goggles on with no spectator, no, you know, no person around me. You know, I'll admit that, you know, but it's not that I'm doing it dangerously. I'm not flying over people and scaring people and that sort of thing. So it really kind of goes back to if there's an incident or not. If there's an incident and this, God forbid, I hope this never happens to anybody, but let's say you're flying beyond line of sight and your propeller breaks apart and the drone crashes and hurts somebody. Okay. You know, that's obviously going to be an issue, right? And they're going to ask, where were you? Where was the pilot? How far were you? Were you beyond line of sight, right? And, you know, and they're going to be able to use that, oh, well, he was flying beyond line of sight, so that's why he didn't know that the telephone wire was there, or, you know, whatever the case is, right? So if you're flying within line of sight, you have a better sense of your surroundings than if you're flying a mile away, okay? Are there cases where you can where you need to fly beyond line of sight? Absolutely, especially even more so as a Part 107 pilot. As a recreational hobbyist, there's not really too much reason for you to be able to, you know, to fly 2 miles away. I'm not saying don't fly 2 miles away. I've flown way further than that myself. You know, it's really just about a sense of you're being aware of your sense of your surroundings, and not just your surroundings, but what's around the drone as well. And there won't be an issue until there's an issue. So just don't be an issue.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I got a question. Can you fly drone in downtown Tampa, specifically Cortes Sixon Park?
Most probably, I can look it up. There's a, here, I'll put this in chat as well. There's a an app that's really good. Air map, and
Before you fly?
but before you fly is junk.
Oh.
So it is.
Because it says in the internet, top 5 to fly in Tampa is #1 is Cortes Sixon Park.
Yeah. So without knowing the part, what park was it?
Cortes Sixon Park, downtown Tampa.
Cortez.
Ashley Drive.
Oh, actually,
Near the river. Near the river. Near Glaciers Museum.
It's not letting me use my my browser because I'm in a Zoom meeting. Chances are, it's going to be a restricted flight zone. Most of Tampa is, because we have Tampa International, we have the helipad at the Tampa General Hospital, we've got the Air Force Base, we've got 2 executive airports up in Lutz and one out here by Temple Terrace area. I mean, there is a lot of airport, a lot of action happening in the sky in Tampa. So chances are, probably not, but chances are that park could be in an area where you could at least fly maybe 200 feet. And the apps that I posted in chat, Air Map and Kitty Hawk, you can download those apps and it'll tell you exactly what you're authorized to fly at.
Gotcha. All right. I
You know,
just put
so
that
you
question
let-
out because it says top 5.
Yeah. So
All right. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question for you, please.
Yes, sir.
This is Rudolph. Now, are you saying, like, I can understand Clearwater, St. Pete Beach are probably like, when the weather's decent, are fairly packed, but up around like Pasco County, where the beaches are not so packed, is it legal to fly a drone on the beach there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as long as there's no kind of airspace restriction or airport near around, you can absolutely fly at beaches. You can fly over the water. You know, I fly at Sunset Beach. I've flown at because I'm more in Clearwater, Treasure Island, and that sort of thing. Beaches are definitely okay as long as that beach isn't a state park or a bird sanctuary or one of those lines. Okay, so like there are parks that like the mangroves that are way off, like 3 miles off the coast of Pinellas. You got Anclote and Rucker Key and all them other ones. Those are islands with beaches, but they're also state parks. You have Honeymoon Island. Again, I only know Pinellas. Honeymoon Island or Honeymoon. It's not really technically an island, it's more, I guess it is. A lot of beaches and stuff, but that whole part of the island is all state park.
So it's cool. It's cool to fly in Honeymoon.
No, you can't fly at Honeymoon because it's a state park. But you can take off. Now remember, you can take off from outside the park and fly over the park. And in fact, we have the Tampa Drones photography tour. If you haven't looked that up yet, it's on Meetup. We did it a couple years ago where we took my boat and we loaded everybody up with drones, and I had a floating landing dock, and everybody with their drones, they could take off. We would anchor out outside of Anclote Island, and everybody would take off, and we would fly the lighthouse and the islands and be able to and get all those really cool sceneries. Otherwise, you'd have to be 3 miles off the coast, to be able to get to it. So, even though those areas, they're state parks, you can still fly in the state park. You just can't take off and land from within that park. And crashing is a form of landing, so don't crash.
Okay, 2 other questions for you. As far as a public beach is concerned, you cannot fly over people, can you?
That's right.
Okay, does it affect the drone's activity if you fly over water, looking back at the beach?
It can if you're too close to the water. DJI drones back in the day, now they've issued a firmware fix for this since then, but they'll still tell you that their sensors don't really work that well over water. And I actually personally have lost a Phantom 4 drone because I was flying it over water, and the sonar doesn't bounce off water like it does the ground. So
Right.
sonar will penetrate the water and it'll give the drone a misreading. So in my instance, I was flying 38 feet above the land, and then I went over the water, and my Phantom was hovered while I was sitting there talking to somebody. But the Phantom is actually decreasing its altitude because it was adjusting it's adjusting itself, because it knew that, okay, I'm at 38 feet. Well, now I'm at 60 feet. I need to go back to 38, and there was water there. And later DJI actually replaced my drone because it was actually a technical error.
So what you're saying is that you have a propensity for the drone to give you not good readings over water, correct?
When you're hovering. Now, when you're actually flying it and making your shots and doing stuff, then you're okay. I wouldn't fly. Let me change that. I wouldn't hover less than 30 feet above water. Don't hover over 30 feet of water, because under 30 feet, that's when the lower sensors on your drone begin to activate. When it's above 30 feet, then the drone relies more on GPS data for the altitude and barometric pressure and all that other good stuff. So when you're flying over water and you're flying low, make sure you're actually flying and not like hovering and, you know, letting the scene just kind of happen. You kind of have to be on it. Just pay attention. I wasn't paying attention when I lost my drone. If I was paying attention to my drone, I would have seen that it was decreasing altitude, and I'd just been like, you know, what the hell's going on? And I would have increased my altitude, you know. So a lot of it too is just paying attention.
Did that affect your readings on your handheld telling you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying it's better if you're going to fly over water to fly high then, correct?
Just higher than 30 feet or 40 feet. Yeah, if you're going to do it. And also too, you have to take into account the reflections of from the water are going to be hitting your sensors at the bottom of the drone. Skydios, for example, I know Skydios for a fact have an issue where if the water reflection hits one of their obstacle avoidance sensors in the right way, the Skydio drone will drop from the sky. It'll nosedive. I've had two people in two different instances come to me with that issue, and it's actually a known issue that Skydio has recognized. So it's just one of those things.
Is it possible to get a waiver to fly a drone off the land at Honeymoon Island?
It's anything.
I can pipe in on that. This is Len again. I live in Dunedin, and I'm the guy with the new Mini 2. So I have already flown over Honeymoon Island several times. It was just very easy. The gate to the park is not till you get to the very end of the Dunedin Causeway. So there is open access on the Dunedin Causeway on both sides. So it's just very easy to park there and launch there and then fly right over Honeymoon. I haven't had any problems at all. I've got several nice videos of Honeymoon Island and Hurricane Pass. Even over to the adjoining state park, which is not accessible by land, Caladesi Island.
Caladesi, yep.
Okay, but basically, I guess what I'm interested in, if my wife and I go to Honeymoon Island, if I can use it like as a follow me mode and take pictures of us.
If you take off from outside the park, then that should be okay. That's the regulation. Yeah, it's silly, but I am here giving you the loop around.
Okay. Okay, thanks for your help.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. We got about 2 minutes left on my free version of Zoom. So if there's nothing else, thank you everybody for coming. I've put my email address and phone number into the chat. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. If you have drone issues, again, feel free to use that. I'll do what I can to get you back in the air. All right. Take care, guys. Thank you so much and fly safe.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.